Here we go. It's SEM's 3 and 3 challenge. A month ago, I started this after being told that I was too long winded, and I sat in this very spot on a 70-degree fall morning here in Virginia. Now, a month later, it's 28 degrees. Most of the leaves have fallen behind me. And, I thought, well, this is a fitting time with the topic that I chose today. It's all dedicated around the life of George H.W. Bush and what it means for our country. This week, we mourned the loss of him, and a lot of the things that, as you read, talked about how he was willing to work with the other side of the aisle. And after reading that, I thought what I've thought before is Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton could not be elected in this political environment. And when I say that, most people think I'm crazy. But I'm going to pull up some charts here from Pew Research, which is a neat little tool they put together last year that shows where people stood in the political spectrum. And I think it's interesting if you look at chart number 1, which was the first year they had this data, that 2 years after George H.W. had lost to Bill Clinton, you saw the average Democrat was actually right down the middle. The average Republican had actually shifted to the right a little bit, and a lot of the news stories talked about how during George H.W.'s tenure, he kind of emboldened the religious right, and you did see a shift to the right in the Republican Party. Well, what was interesting is if you jump ahead and now you look 10 years later in 2004, so this is halfway through George W.'s first term, and now you'd seen something completely different. The Republicans had come now, and they were right down the middle, and now the Democrats had started to shift to the left a little bit. And a lot of people I know have criticized George W. for being too moderate. Well, he was just doing what the average Republican wanted, which was to kind of work with both sides and try to do things that were for the good of both people. And then the Democrats had shifted a little bit out to try to fight that. Moving on to chart number 3 is where I think you see the biggest difference. Now, the Republicans are not in the middle, the Democrats are not in the middle, and what we actually saw was the shift into this political divide we've seen. I dove a little bit deeper, and what we saw was the Republicans actually did their biggest shift from 2008 to 2011. Since then, they've kind of stayed right where they were at. The Democrats, each election, have shifted further, and I would argue that if we ran this poll again in 2018, you'd see them even further to the left based on the results of the midterm elections and some of the things we're seeing already for the presidential election. And there's no message here other than, look, things change quickly, but they also go in cycles. And we've seen these types of divides in our country before. And I think we should just all take a page from George H.W.'s book, respect the other side, value their opinion, and just remember we're all Americans.